Enabling authentication is an important measure to secure any routing protocol and is simply a method where two neighbors prove their identity to each other by using a shared password. No protocol message is accepted from a neighbor unless the message is correctly authenticated. So for example, if one neighbor is sending an authenticated packet, it won't be accepted by the other neighbor unless the same authentication has been configured, and vice versa. Both routers must agree on the authentication type and authentication key. This allows OSPF to exchange routing update information in a secure manner. So this is the topology that we're going to be using for the OSPF authentication portion. We've got two routers, R1 and R2, connected by G000. They've both got loopback addresses and they're both in area 0. Now, OSPF supports packet authentication where if a particular packet is not authenticated, then it won't form a neighbor adjacency. And there's two main types of authentication on the Huawei platform, and you have area authentication and you have interface authentication. Now, area authentication means that all interfaces within that area are authenticated, where interface authentication is just for a particular interface. And if both are configured, then the interface authentication will take precedence. So let's jump on the terminal. I have R1 and R2 already open, and let's have a look at some of this configuration. So if I jump on R1, we can see that I've already got the gigabit Ethernet interface configured. All I need to do now is configure the loopback address. Okay, and I'll do the same on R2. Oh, no interfaces are configured over here, so let me just do that quickly. And let me see if I can ping across to R1. Well, not like that. Yeah, and we've got pinging. So what I will do now, I will do the area configuration, area authentication for OSPF. OSPF 1. I will put them both in area 12. And from here, I can say authentication mode, MD5. Let's give it a key. So we'll give the key ID of 12 as well. And on this first one, I will make it plain text. This means if we look in the configuration, we're going to be able to see the password. I will just use the password of Huawei. Okay, and let's advertise the networks into OSPF. That's the gigabit interface. And let's do the loopback. Okay, and let's go across to, oh sorry, that was on R2. So let me undo that network. And advertise the correct network. All right, and let me do that, jump over to R1 and do the same. OSPF 1. Area 12, advertise the networks first. Now, if I leave it just like this, adjacency will never come up because one side has authentication and the other side doesn't. So if I say display OSPF interface, we can see that the interfaces are there, but if I say display OSPF peer brief, we can see that we have no peer information. And that's because R2 has authentication. So let me just do the authentication on this side. Give it a key. And it doesn't matter if one side has a cipher. So I will hide the authentication password on this side by saying cipher, but I will have to use the same password. And we can see that a neighborship has come up. So if I say display OSPF peer, and we have a neighborship. So this is aerial authentication. The other way to configure authentication is under the interface. So if I quit out of this and I run interface G000 authentication mode, and let's OSPF authentication mode, and let's have a look at the options. And we've got 5 options here. We have HMAC MD5, keychain, MD5, null, and simple. Now, if you're wondering what the difference is between HMAC MD5 and normal MD5, so HMAC is a message authentication code, which is based on a hash function. And the idea is that they're going to link the key and the message and hash them together. Now, so far, it's been impossible if you've been provided with a cryptographic hash to find out what it is a hash of, even if you know the hash. Now, if all of what I've just said sounds like gibberish, don't worry. It's out of scope of this course anyway, but all you need to know is that it's a more secure MD5 function. Let's have a look at that. If I say HMAC MD5 12, we're just going to provide a plain password. Again, we're going to use Huawei. I'm actually expecting this to bring the adjacency down because one side is MD5 and the other side is HMAC MD5, and I don't expect that they're compatible. So let's have a look. And there we go. We see that the neighborship has come down. So all we have to do to bring that neighborship up is jump over to R2 and do the same. Interface G000 OSPF authentication mode HMAC 12 plain, and we give it a password of Huawei. And we can see that the adjacency has come back up. So this is just a brief video on OSPF authentication. The main points to take away is that you have 2 kinds of authentication: aerial authentication and interface authentication, and both sides need to match. OSPF can authenticate packets. If a packet is not authenticated, then an adjacency cannot be formed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.